You want to take this, when people come into the waiting room, you can do that. And I'll just keep on going. All right, good evening, everybody. This is Chairman Mike McCoo of the Wellington Board of Finance calling to order the regular meeting of the Board of Finance of October 20th, 2022 at 7:06 p.m. First order of business is seating of alternates if needed. Pete Tanaka is on the road right now, and he asked that we seat Jim Gilligan in his place. So if I could get a motion to that effect.
Make a motion to seat Jim Gilligan for Peter Tanaka.
Get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Looks like we've got every, Steph, you're an aye.
Aye. Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess you muted me. I unmuted myself again.
Yeah, sorry, that you were shuffling papers on your desk before, so I muted you. Sorry, I should have told you.
Oh, those papers are so noisy.
Very, okay. Motion passes, by the way. Moving on to approval of minutes. We have still a couple of back minutes that I'm working on getting through. But for tonight, we have the September 15th meeting minutes to approve. And I'll entertain a motion for those. Anyone want to move to?
I'll make a motion. We move to accept the September 19th, 2022.
That is one of the errors we're going to correct tonight. It's the 15th. Sorry. Can we get a second? I'll second it. Any additions or corrections? One I will note is the minutes that were released say 9:19 on them. They should say 9:15. So we'll note that. Anything else? All right, seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes of 9/15/2022, say aye.
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 I abstain.
All right, let's do a roll call. Are you ready for that?
Yep.
Okay.
Aye.
Joe,
Aye. Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Abstain. I wasn't present.
And I'll be an aye. Motion carries. Next is present to speak. Public participation is desired and encouraged. Speakers will be limited to time and appropriateness of comments to maintain progress, stay on topic, and maintain decorum. So I'll start in the room first. Anybody in the room like to speak, present to speak? I saw, go ahead. I saw your hand first.
It's all good. All right, Nick Tello, 49 Myrtle. So, regards to Board of Finance approving any money from here to the school and such, I just feel as though the SVC should be stating line items of what this money is going to be used for, not just saying, hey, we're going to go to Collars and they're going to get 50,000, we're going to go to Eagle, whoever. Like, what exactly is this money going to? And so that's one thing I think should be clarified. I understand you guys don't determine how the school spends their money. I just have an issue when I was looking at Ed site, if I'm saying it right. Wellington's spending approximately $1,400 per pupil on maintenance, while the state's spending $1,600. And I understand from parents that have kids in the school, they're saying kids get sick with mold and this and that. It's just a way they're spending money. I have concern with that. And then I know the school project is going to be discussed later. The Board of Finance needs to take in consideration of what is going to happen to the town from an expense when they have to close down center. You know, January 2021, the presentation said that it was $7.9 million upgrade to that building. I get that that was for the use of a school. Or again, that's a reference point. I mean, is it 4 million or is it 8 million that the taxpayer is going to have to take? That's not being explained through the SBC. The Board of Finance needs to maybe have that conversation. I know obviously you're on it, such, but we need as taxpayers to understand that when this new school gets pushed through, we still have the expense, if it's a new school, we still have the expense of the center school on our plate. And it really needs to be considered and talked about, I think. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Peter, you had your hand up?
Peter Latintich, 97 Trask Road. You could include me on the agenda item to share an update from the school building committee, sub-finance committee, to address what Mr. Teller just asked for, the expenditures and revenues that we're operating on. And I will share that information with the board and answer any questions.
I would be happy to reach out to you during that agenda
Thank you.
item. Eric, I think you had a hand up.
I'd like to ask you to consider moving item 6 of old business to the top of your agenda so that our public works director could get to.
Okay, once we're in business, we'll make a motion to move that up. Okay, anybody else in the room for present to speak? Okay, anybody online present to speak? If you would like to speak, unmute and call out your name and address, please. Okay,
Okay, just Nick Teller, 49 Myrtle, just to add one more point in regards to potentially a truck and such. I just want to be again on the record. I do not think the town should be going and giving money to a new $250,000 truck, or now probably $300,000 truck. Just want to be on.
thank you. Thank you. All right, looks like we're all set with present to speak. On to old business. At the request of the first select woman, unless there's an objection amongst the board, I'd like to move item 6 to the beginning. I don't think we need a motion for that. We can just move it up. Seeing no objections, we'll do item 6 first, which is CIP DPW dump truck. Would one of you want to start it, kick it off?
So the CIP plan included a replacement of a public works vehicle, the 2012 International. I'll make sure I get all the trucks right. And in that request at CIP that was approved at town meeting was for $225,000 for the 22-23 fiscal year. When the Board of Selectmen went to approve the vendor and award the contract, we were given information at that time that the cost of vehicles had dramatically increased. And at that point, it was $265,050. We were also given information that price was only good till August 7th, and that we believe there would be another price increase. Because of that, the Board of Selectmen, as you know, came to you with a request that we approved for the 10% contingency. So it was $291,050. This board asked us to consider going out to bid. We did. We received one bid that was open this afternoon. The price was $265,050. So the price did not change from the July timeframe that we had thought that it could possibly. My hope was always that it would still remain low, but the Board of Selectmen took the approach of putting some contingency fees in there. As you know, the lifespan of our vehicles is not that of a normal vehicle. These are trucks that are used every day. Troy can speak to that, both for hauling off winter season and then as plow trucks in the winter. And it is imperative that we have working vehicles in order to plow snow from the roads. We live in New England. Snow is a fact of life, and it becomes a matter of public safety. And so with that, we would ask that you reconsider, and I believe you've gotten a memo to that effect, reconsider our original motion, but not asking for the contingency. And this has not gone back to the Board of Selectmen. But because we know a current price that we received today, I don't believe that contingency is needed and warranted. And so I wouldn't ask you to consider authorizing $291,050, but the $265,000. So that is $40,000 more. I'm gonna try that number, I'm doing my math right. $40,050 more than budgeted for in CIP last year. I think we're all aware of the increasing price of goods and services. This is not what anyone had hoped for or we would want. In the last, we put $10,000 worth of maintenance in this vehicle in just the last, since July. It is a troubled vehicle. We've spoken about this. The plan is to trade it in. And so any funds would typically go back to the general fund. Our business manager and I discussed today, asking this board to consider any of those funds return to the reserve fund to offset the additional costs that we would recommend coming out of the reserve fund.
Do we know what that traded number would be? Okay,
Just due to the fact of what, it's gonna be until, if that truck was approved, it wouldn't be until April or May of this next year that we would get the truck, so they didn't.
right, so they won't put a price on it because the condition of it could change. Okay.
And then
I couldn't, Mike, I
Right.
couldn't hear that. I couldn't hear the response on the trade-in at all.
Because of the delay in getting the new truck, they didn't want to commit on a trade-in value because the truck could decline or magically improve in condition between now and then, which would change its value.
And we could consider, other than trading, we could consider selling in a different manner if we thought that would garner a higher amount, which I think would be, Troy would recommend, so you can.
You have to see what conditions are at the time.
That's right.
Right.
If a new vehicle doesn't come in until March, we're gonna go through an entire winter season with, and so I think we all know anything is possible, but I will cross my fingers. So in front of you, you have a motion for consideration, and this is based on conversations we have and the recommendation of our business manager to approve the dollar amount and to take the additional $40,050 from the reserve fund.
Okay, I'm just changing screens so I can find the.
So Troy, any deal you're gonna make is not contingent on a trade-in?
What was that again?
Any deal we make on a truck is not
Is
contingent on a
not
trade?
right, is that no, but there will be a trade-in of some
Of some
value
kind.
at some point when the truck is on, either delivered or
Right.
whatever. That truck will not stay here in the garage.
Okay,
So
to
to clarify,
go ahead.
does that mean we're talking about 66,000, not 40,000? As far as an outlay right now, because if it's not contingent on the trade-in,
Oh, the trade-in is not even in the conversation right now. The trade-in's not in the numbers right now at all. We're
Okay.
approving numbers, assuming there's no trade-in. The trade-in will hopefully benefit us later on.
okay.
We're approving the full cost.
What I'm confused about is that the difference in cost is 66,050, right? I missed the thread
Not
on,
anymore, not anymore. That was the difference in cost when they had a contingency on it. But they've removed the contingency because they just got the update. They did the bid opening today. So they have solid pricing as of today. So they don't feel they need the contingency anymore. Right, Erica?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it's prudent to ask for additional monies when we have a solid quote, this is good for 30 days. And if this board were to move in this direction tonight, a town meeting could be held and we would have some definite information. So I think it would be not warranted to ask the
Right.
townspeople for more money.
You heard that, Stephanie?
yeah, so the total, what is the total cost at this point? Of the dump truck?
The total cost is $265,050.
Okay,
And what they are suggesting is that we would call a town meeting to appropriate up to $169.46 from capital reserve, which would be the down payment plus the first year lease payment, which was something we had constructed months ago in conversations here at the Board of Finance, was
Right.
doing that split. So it wasn't all impacting the budget in 1 year. And then the remaining would be in leasing in the out years.
okay, and
It
that's,
would show up in that would show up in the operating budget as well as CIP as lease payments.
right, so that's 100K in leasing?
It's hang on.
125 was from leasing, 100 was from the reserve account, reserve fund.
right, in the original,
It's up.
but then it's gone up. So I'm just looking at how it's written in here. We paid for, yes, so, right, so the down payment is $140,050 and $125,000 is leasing.
Okay. Thank you. I missed the thread on the 291 going down.
Yep. It's been a little confusing. Okay, so my comments on this, and Troy and I had a very lengthy and good valuable conversation Monday on the phone, so I could understand the bidding process. The reason we have only one bid is because of a couple of things. First of all, in Freightliner world, which this is the brand, the Freightliner dealers are territory protected. So one Freightliner dealer is not going to bid against another. You're going to get one bid. The reason we don't have other brands bidding is that Troy feels very strongly that as he builds the fleet, the right way to build the fleet for reliability and for maintenance reasons is to have similar trucks. To do that, he used essentially a Freightliner spec and said no exceptions when he put out the bid. What that means is the other dealers that look at it, one of them who contacted me, know that they can't bid on it or don't want to bid on it because they see it says no exception. So the town is essentially saying this is the truck we want. Now, we can legally do that because we're taking it off of the state, through the state contract, the state bidding list. It's a legal way to make a purchase. It happens in the industry all the time, and the industry understands they're going to win some, lose some, but they do want the sales. So the dealer that I heard from sells 2 or 3 other brands that would potentially bid, but they knew because no exceptions that they wouldn't likely get anything, and so they didn't put the work into bidding. Troy and I had long conversations about this to understand why, and also why he used some specifications that were slightly different from what the DOT uses for trucks. Partly because of the fact, as Erica mentioned, the DOT trucks don't do as much heavy hauling as our trucks do on the hills and all that. So he went for a little bit bigger, heavier rear axle, things like that. He feels he needs those things for longevity of his fleet to handle the work we do. Again, this is a legal method of doing things. I expressed to him concerns I had about it, and I think that's important for us to understand how we go forward here, because this is such a price increase. If it was within the budget that was already approved, it would probably be pretty easy for us to move this on. So I guess it's, if the board cares to discuss it, it's an issue of, do we feel there's a cheaper option if we were not bidding Freightliner only and we allowed it to be open to other brands? The other question I had for Troy, which I still am sure I understand the answer, I'm not sure I understand the answer, is that the bid said 2024 model year only, which he said is because all the 2023s are already sold. My question was, well, what if someone has a 2023 coming that someone else backs out of, or is going to be a stock unit for the lot and it meets our spec? Why wouldn't we allow a 2023? We might get it faster. He said he doesn't think it's possible that'll happen. So I just want to put all the facts in and see if there's discussion about this, or if people are not concerned about it, do we just move it on to the taxpayers and let them decide? It's their decision in the end.
And can I, Mike, if I may, a couple of questions. I'm a little bit concerned with dealers calling the chairman of the Board of Finance and you not directing that to the Public Works Director.
I
So
did. I talked to him about it.
No.
I called him
you
and I
got-
talked to him about it.
You stopping the conversation with dealers who are discussing a bid that should be discussed with Public Works, so, but I think that's another matter. And I want to be clear that the Board of Selectmen approved and awarded a vendor for this particular item. So any decision on what is being purchased goes through the Board of Selectmen, and we rely on the professional folks that we employ that work in that area. And Troy's expertise is what guided the Board of Selectmen to make this decision. And so, you know, if we could get, a couple of years ago when we purchased that new vehicle because we lost a contract and needed a truck, there were trucks on the lots. That was more commonplace, and we took one with lesser options simply because we needed it then, it was available. If that were the case now, we would jump on that. But it's so, I think we can all, if you're going to purchase a vehicle and you need something, it's very limited. The
Yep.
supply chain has been hurt. If we could get a cheaper model for the truck that our public works director believes we need for efficiency in his department, we would be bringing that to you. I'm the last person who wants to bring you a request for more money. That's not our hope, which is why I'm standing before you and saying, I know the Board of Selectmen asked for a contingency. I don't think that would be appropriate.
Right, I understand that, and I respect it, and I respect Troy's work, and that was why the phone call was so valuable the other day. But there's a reason it doesn't stop at the Board of Selectmen. It comes to us and then to the townspeople, because there are other people who have a concern or a say or participate in the process, right? So there's no disrespect to the work that's been done so far. But when you come to us and say you have it's a little less than a 30% price increase now because you've taken the contingency out. But you have a significant price increase on something the taxpayers have already approved. I think it's our job to have a discussion about it. I think it's what we're supposed to be doing here at the
But I
Board of
think the
Finance.
Financial piece, I think directing us to what we should be bidding for is where I think we probably disagree. I would encourage you to move this to the township.
I agree that there's a question about how far the Board of Finance should get into your bidding process. I understand that. But when you're asking for more money, it becomes a discussion of why are we here? And we all know, Troy said it himself in the conversation on Monday, if we open the bid up to allow other brands to bid, we would potentially get cheaper trucks, but they might not meet his need. And I respect that it might not meet his need, but then it's a conversation that the taxpayers can decide what they want to spend money on. If we don't allow the other people to bid, as he said, I might get stuck with a truck I don't want, which may be bad, but it becomes the taxpayer's decision at that point. Right now, the taxpayer's only decision is to say yes or no. Not to see if there's a cheaper option. So that's why we ask these questions. I mean, we could just pass everything through, and I don't think we're doing our job.
Right, I think I made my point that your purview is more about the financial piece of it, not
Right.
the spec portion of it. That's my
Right, but financial process is part of our responsibility, right? And I was surprised when I found out that the finance office doesn't do the bidding. I assumed the finance office would oversee bidding as a town function, which was just my misunderstanding, I guess. I didn't know that. That's why I emailed Donna, said, what's going on with the bidding? What are the results? And that's when the conversation happened and said it's not in her purview. It's handled by the people who need it. So.
I think a bigger town, bigger office.
So any other board discussion? Stephanie?
Yeah, so under the take it out of the specific, the thing that concerns me about it, about the issues that are cropping up with this, and particularly what I read in the notes of your discussion with Troy, we both made your points really well. I'm worried about the long-term practice of closing down on a 3-bid minimum more and more, and being over specific, because there's nothing that says a town entity couldn't take, based on a recommendation by the director of Public Works or whomever the player is, take a higher bid than the lowest bid. We've done that before. That's always an option. I think then it creates a discussion with the public to let them know why this is more important. And then the public is smarter when these things come up. What I don't like is setting up a situation where we sort of have a monopolistic bidder who can say, oh, these are more expensive. It's going to go up 60 grand, actually, and that puts us not in a great light. And I'm also concerned about competitive bidders sort of drying up on us, because we get a reputation for not really doing aggressive cost comparison when we're buying these big items. So I understand Troy's trying to figure out what's the quickest way to get a truck that he feels is important to do the work he does in Wellington on our hilly roads and snowstorms. I get that totally, but I feel like I guess I want to see a more aggressive practice about protecting taxpayer money on these big ticket items, because I know from being on CIP for years that the 5-year plan is dominated by big vehicle purchases. It just is, either because we have more and more leasing costs in the line every year to balance against the overall total of capital spending, or because these items are just getting more multiple. I mean, we're upgrading in places. So that's my concern, is kind of long-term bidding reputation, and you know, a more aggressive way of trying to keep the taxpayer costs as low as we can, still getting what we need and listening to our experts in the department head roles.
I just comment that there's nothing about this was about trying to get something quick. That does not play into it. So I just want to comment on that. It's not about getting something quick.
I should have said streamline. That would have been a better word. It's a more direct process when you're only dealing with one bidder.
So I think that actually quickness brings up a great conversation that Troy and I also had. Our process is cumbersome, and it causes lengthy thing, and it often allows us to be in a position where we're victim of price increases because our system is cumbersome. Troy has expressed frustration with that in the past about other things, and when we talked on Monday, he expressed frustration that we sometimes get to these places because the process puts us past something, the available thing goes away, and then we have to wait for the next thing, or we have to order. We're not going to solve that
No,
tonight.
but the pandemic exacerbated that.
Of course, of course.
We could rely on prices pre.
And I guess that's my feeling, is because we're in this critical situation and the pandemic has made it bad, we should be opening ourselves up to more options, not narrowing our options. You know, maybe this is unfortunately a time when we're not gonna, you know, when we're not gonna have as easy a time getting exactly what we need or what we want. But I think I'll get the motion on the floor so that we can have discussion on the motion itself. Donna, I'm just gonna ask, the last section of what you put here, which says the approved purchase price of the truck is $265. Do you want all of that read in the motion? Or is that follow-up information?
It's follow-up information.
Right, so what the motion really should be is is the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. I'm not making the motion right now, by the way. I want to be clear. I want to get the clarity first.
Yes.
The recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, call a town meeting to appropriate up to the $169,946 from the capital reserve fund for a down payment of $140,050 and a first-year lease payment of up to $20,896 for a 2024 Freightliner 114 SD single axle plow truck. That should be the motion, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I move the Board of Finance recommend to the Board of Selectmen to call a town meeting to appropriate up to $160,946 from the capital reserve fund for a down payment of $140,050 and a first-year lease payment of up to $20,896 for a 2024 Freightliner 114 SD single axle plow truck.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now we're in official discussion.
Mike, I have a question about
Jim.
the model year is going to be a 2024 and it's going to be delivered in March of 23.
In May of 23.
May of 23.
And it will be a 24 model, a 2024 truck.
Okay. Would there be any benefit for us just to say new instead of 2024 in case a 2023 comes available?
That's why I bring that up, Mike.
Right, like if they have a deal cancel and it's the right truck, I don't want someone to say you pick 2024 and we could get a 2023.
Absolutely.
All right, so.
I think like you might be able to leave the specifics of the truck out at that point then. The very specific, because is this exactly what it would be?
Yeah.
Is it
either way,
2023?
yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we don't.
All right, so Stephanie, would you consider the friendly amendment that we remove the number 2024 and instead say new?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so we have amended that. Okay, other discussion. Christina,
I know Donna had put in her notes that having it come from the reserve fund was preferred over the general fund. And I think I agree with that. But I'm wondering if we could have it so that whatever the trade-in is, or when the 2012 truck does get sold, that the proceeds of that go into the reserve fund. So that it offsets it a little bit.
yeah, I think that's what Erica was thinking in her comments before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have a policy that specifically puts it somewhere, Donna?
No.
Or can we, so we can choose?
We can choose.
Okay. So we just have to remember that.
Well, I mean. we'll remember with it.
Yeah.
There's, however much. comes
Okay,
back.
so good comment. Other Board of Finance discussion.
That's not something we should put in the motion.
I don't think we should, only because we may want flexibility on how Troy disposes of the truck. Like, let's
A lot
say a
can
friendly
change,
town comes along and says, I really need that truck for my fleet as a backup, and I'll give you $6 million for it, then we want him to take it, right? I apologize for the ridiculous humor, but we gotta find something here.
But
so.
wouldn't we still want it to go in the reserve fund in that situation?
Yeah, you just are saying, don't put it in the motion.
Yes, we still want it to go in the reserve fund. But I'm not sure how much we wanna. Well, we could add a comment on the effect of any proceeds from disposal of the 2012 International would go to the reserve fund. We could add
I
that.
kind of like that because I feel like otherwise we're keeping track of the details of the deal. And for into the future when the players all change, or not.
Question of Donna, that's the decision of this board, correct? Where the proceeds go.
Well, ultimately, anything's a decision of the
Right.
taxpayers,
But I
right?
think it would be, when those funds come back, would it be up to this board? Because typically, funds would go into the general fund. And that's why Donna and I began having this discussion. I think it's more appropriate for it to go back there. Would the Board of Finance then be the body that makes that adjustment? You would determine that's where it goes. And you would.
So
would we
based on
sell it?
conditions at the time, it
Right.
would be a decision of where's the best place to put
Right, and
it.
I think that there's a no-brainer. Your business manager is telling you now that's the best place for it to go. When that sale happens, she's gonna come to you with a recommendation that these funds be put into the reserve fund.
And if things are different at the time, they might go somewhere else.
When does that
Is
ever
that-
happen?
Yeah. It typically goes to the general fund. If
No,
they
but
sell-
when does that ever happen? Where we decide when money, we never decide when money.
Well,
comes
because
in.
money doesn't come back for trade-ins very
Ever.
often.
Well, no, because
No,
the general policy.
It goes out, it never
Go
comes
to the
back in.
General fund.
That's what I was
Right,
saying,
that's-
is there a
yes,
policy?
Yeah.
I never remember having a
I
motion.
don't
to-
have a written policy. I don't have anything written down. So I would say if it's not written down, it's not a policy.
Okay,
When there's a trade-in, it has to go to the general fund.
Yeah.
There's nothing written down about trade-ins.
okay. So there are in some places, kind of like they're in contracts with, so like the contracts with the fire department say that if you trade in or dispose of a large piece, you have to, I think, come to the Board of Selectmen
Yes,
and
that is a
notify them or
policy,
something
yeah,
like that.
Yes.
But
there's a
that's
policy
about-
for that in that
right.
agreement.
Yeah.
But the past practice has been on a trade-in, that the money goes back to where it was expended from.
So if it was from capital reserve, it goes back to
It goes
capital
back to capital
reserve.
reserve, right. If it came out of the general fund, it goes
All right,
back to
then
the
fine,
general
yeah.
fund.
Okay,
Yeah, I've never remembered making a motion to something backs. a certain-
That's reassuring, Donna.
okay, more discussion on the motion.
When we start to get more than 10 years out of these things, I mean. I know I'm not looking at a crystal ball here for you, but, it's just-
Hopefully.
Well, I mean, if Troy's theory about buy the right equipment to make it last works, then maybe we will get more than 10 years out of these
2
things.
years ago, we replaced it 2007. So in some cases, we are pushing them. But we can, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fire truck next door that's a 1991. And we expected it would be on the old cycle of every 20 years it gets replaced. it's a 1991 and it still doesn't need to be replaced, so we're keeping it. Okay. Any more discussion? Would you call a vote, please?
Jeff,
Yes.
Yes. Was that Steph or Jeff?
now it's both.
That's me here, in the room here.
Sorry.
Steph,
I'm sorry.
Stephanie.
Thanks.
Rob.
Yes.
Christina,
Yes,
Jim.
Yes,
Joe,
Abstain.
Mike,
Yes. Okay, motion passes. You all set? Okay.
Mike,
Yes.
I just make a comment on just sort of on the whole thing. A 10% contingency would not have anywhere been enough. It was the original figure for this having gone up. The original figure of the 291,000 was 30% over the IP. So we would not have been able to handle that with a contingency unless we're really upping our contingencies. The end price is 18% up from what we have in CIP.
Yes, just for clarity, that 291 included a 10% contingency already in that number. But we're not gonna apply that anymore because we have a brand new bid with firm pricing.
Good.
right, and it was, Steph, that was an arbitrary amount we added because we really weren't sure. Things were moving along quite steadily this summer. And so we knew even then it was kind of a risky number, but we took our best guess with it, and that's what we brought. to
Yeah,
it.
commercial stuff has typically been doing about 7 to 8% each
Yeah.
price increase this year.
They were
Yeah.
from January to July, they were pretty significant
Yeah.
on everything.
Yeah.
And so we weren't really sure that the board wasn't, so.
Yeah, fire trucks have gone up since July 1 of this year. Fire trucks have gone up 14% already,
It's crazy.
7% increases.
Thanks.
Okay. Next, back to item 1 of old business, budget status financial report. Donna, do you have any highlights from your report?
Yes, I
Anything
do.
concerning?
Nothing concerning, but information to share with you on the revenue side of the budget. The third category, license fees and permits, we budgeted to collect 129,000. We've already exceeded that. We've collected 131,000. So we're 3 months in and $2,400 over the budget for licenses and fees and permits. And that is due to the Love's permit that we didn't anticipate. The next revenue category, the investment income, we budgeted for $5,000. We've earned interest income of $15,000, so we've exceeded our budget on investment income. And the last revenue category, other revenues, we budgeted to receive $37,800, and to date, we've collected $43,000. So we've exceeded our budget for other revenue, and that is due to receiving back rent by M&J Bus for the parking lot on Ruby Road. So revenues are going to be favorable. And there's no expenditure concerns on the expenditure side.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Donna on the financial report?
I just wondered about the scrap metal credits from the transfer station. If that's showing, where does that show up, Donna, in the revenue, saying it's coming in as checks to the revenue? Does that come in that other revenues category?
Yes, it does. It comes in on other revenue.
Okay, so that may be part of the 6K.
That may be part of it.
Thank you.
Christina?
no, I was just wondering, the Love's permit, didn't we know about that going in? Isn't that part of?
Yeah,
what
but
was-
we did, but we didn't budget it because they couldn't budget it for sure because until it arrived, it couldn't be counted on, right, Donna? I think that's what we discussed before. It was expected it might come, but it couldn't be budgeted for until it landed,
Okay,
because it's so out of the norm.
yeah. Okay,
And I think so their hope was that it would have been the spring, so we might have gotten that in last fiscal year, not this fiscal year, so it
Yeah.
made it very difficult to.
Mhm.
so.
Anything else on Donna's report? All right, moving on to update from school building committee representative, that is me. School building committee has a lot going on, getting close to putting together some significant public outreach with a lot of details. If anyone's attended the school building committee meetings recently, there is a lot going on. The various subcommittees of the school building committee are all have all been working on, that's communication, land assessment, and financial. There's also a task group working for public outreach, which is preparing a PowerPoint, which will hopefully be also released to the public as a YouTube type video. That is hopefully within the next 2 weeks. I'd like to invite Pete to speak specifically on the finance subcommittee of the school building committee.
Thank you. I believe on your agenda tonight is a request to begin the process anew to secure for our committee, school building committee, the funds that were approved in CIP.
That's the next item on the agenda, yeah.
In anticipation of that, we reviewed our budget last night in our meeting with our committee, our revenues and our expenses. I'll share that with the board. I don't know if you can do it electronically. Or if you can screen share.
I'm gonna try a little magic.
This is a summary from our finance office of essentially our first 100,000 that was appropriated in CIP. And it's a snapshot of where we are at this point. We were appropriated $100,000 by CIP. That's the budget we're operating on now as a CIP committee. If you move to the right, year to date, we've actually paid out 32,000 of that 100,000. Move to the right again, we have encumbrances or bills coming, if you will, for an additional 54,000, leaving us $12,000 in our till. Detailed by our finance office is the expenditures that we've paid to date. If you look at the footnotes at the bottom, you will see that Colliers, which is the consulting firm that works with us and does the lion's share of our work, has a PO for $68,000, purchase order $68,000 for their services, of which we've used to date what you see detailed in this spreadsheet. The other expenses were things like our enrollment study, land valuations, attorney's fees, and more recently, environmental studies. So I wanted this to be clear to the Board of Finance that you could move forward and begin the process of requesting the second $100,000. And you're probably asking what that's for. Well, as Mike alluded, we're reaching a critical juncture in our work as a committee. Our consultant is going to be presenting twin track proposals for renovation or new potential projects for the town. And on our schedule, a potential town referendum in March for this project. So we are going to have a very busy period with the consultant, with attorneys, additional work by Colliers, land assessments, and so forth. How much of that $100,000 we will need is not fully known. However, be clear as the Board of Finance that any funds that we don't use will automatically returned to the town, and I assume we'll go to the capital reserve where it came from. So, any questions on this? I want to be sure the Board of Finance has confidence in moving forward with the request for our appropriation for the second $100,000, which would ultimately go to town meeting, but you guys are the first step in the process.
Right, so I don't have, thank you for the report, Peter. I don't have questions, only because I have the view from being our representative to the
This
school
changed-
building
By the way,
committee.
this changed slightly from our marathon meeting last night.
Was there time in between?
First thing this morning.
So, right, so regardless of the small change, I understand what's in this report. So for me, it's not as much a question as I'd like to share to the board and then encourage board questions. That the process is very detailed, and we are in fact at a point where we can't possibly define what the next expenses are, but we can clearly see that we have expenses coming that fit within the consultant work. For example, in lengthy discussion last night is what level we're going to spend to do due diligence. And wherever you fall on that debate or that discussion, the discussion is around how much work should we ask Colliers or other architectural engineering type people to dig into our two options so that we have greater information to present to the public. And that will cost some of this money. There were numbers thrown out from everything from a ridiculously low $5,000 to a ridiculously high $500,000 for this work. We're not talking about spending $500,000, but we clearly will need more consultant type work to be ready to present to the town. Regardless of what we do tonight, we'll put it to a motion, see where it goes. Regardless of what we do tonight, it is intended by the school building committee to get a lot of more of this public outreach in the public before it comes up to the town meeting. So this is, there's a series of planned steps here, and in between tonight and when the taxpayers would be asked to speak and vote about this is a great deal of public outreach that'll come out so the taxpayers can go into that decision educated. So I just wanted to kind of put that on there. It might answer a few questions before they're asked. So board member discussion questions on this?
Let me just add one quick thing, Mike.
Sure.
So the public understands how our committee is funded. Last night, our committee elected to put this information online. So it should be available, I believe, on the Board of Ed website for school building committee.
School building committee.
From the town's website.
No,
From the town's website.
it is, the school building committee website is posted to the, on the school side.
That's what I thought.
It is, and it's not there yet until I have the updated one. Once I
Okay.
have the updated one, it will be.
But the plan is to have it there.
Okay.
So as you said, Mike.
Yeah.
That, town people can see how much money we were granted, how much money we expended,
Okay,
and what we're anticipating.
sure.
But if somebody went to the town, so.
I don't
But I'm gonna look in a minute, but if someone were to go to the town website, they can get to,
Should be
from-
able.
on the school building committee page, they should. they can
Okay,
get-
I thought so, but we'll get some clarity on that before we end the meeting tonight.
I know where it is, so I
Okay.
don't know to know that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And just while we're talking about financials, before we get to the motion, because it goes to a comment made earlier in present to speak, the financial picture, the larger and further out financial picture, including what happens with the current buildings, should we move away from one or both of them, that is something that will be discussed more in the school building committee. It has been a topic of discussion, and that won't be left behind. That is a topic that's going to stay in the work, in the mix. Which was one of the reasons when we created the finance subcommittee, that was one of the things we talked about, is this may be valuable in helping to illuminate some of that. So board questions, comments on the report, Stephanie?
One overarching one, and that is, did the defeat in town meeting of appropriating the 100,000 we have in CIP in the past budget by the whole town, by the way, is that, did that slow down the process for you guys in any way? We're almost in November now. So,
Not yet, because we still have the $12,000 remaining.
okay.
But that, you know, we're pretty close.
And the other comment would be about Peter's report. Thank you, Peter. That's really helpful, just even for those of us who were in the know and didn't really question that too much in town meeting in August. Can you do some kind of a summary that could be part of the documents for a future town meeting if when this comes up again, either derived from your narrative on your report that you did or something, to have people have something in their hand and not just be able to direct them to a website that they probably
Yes.
won't view before they go to town meeting.
Absolutely.
That would be really helpful. There was nothing there at the previous meeting. I think people were just throwing darts at a board about what it might be for. And so that would be great.
Yes, that is absolutely intended.
Okay, thanks.
Part of the lesson for the school building committee was that the failure to pass it was a combination of things. It was a combination of people who legitimately just didn't approve of it. And it was also partly that people didn't have good information to make a decision whether to approve it or not. And it wasn't intended to be that way. It just, we realized that we didn't do a good enough job in communicating where we are and where we're going.
Is there a launch date for this YouTube video that would sort of fill in some blanks?
Hoping for the next couple of weeks, but definitely before the town meeting. It's getting final edits now. Okay, now I gotta find the motion. Hang on, gotta find the motion again.
Were you still talking about the update or were you on the?
I'm trying to find the motion so I can be ready. Okay, so I have nothing else on the representative. We've gone right into the financial report. Are there any other questions on school building committee? Anything other than the request for funding? No. Okay, so we're on item 3, review and update on the request for CIP funds to continue consulting and related services. And I know I have the motion here somewhere. Anyone can feel free to talk if they want to pass the time. Play the Jeopardy music.
I was just trying to look on the school building committee thing for that document and I couldn't find it
No.
anywhere.
Phil just said it won't be uploaded. He hasn't gotten this updated one yet.
Yeah, but I've,
So it
Yeah.
will, we decided last night and he hasn't gotten the updated one. so
okay,
it
I
will
just
be
figured
done.
I'd mention it because you said. you
That
were-
was the other thing I was gonna ask. Peter, is there any way we could get your report sent to the whole board since those of us on Zoom haven't seen it?
Mike, did you get it from the finance office?
I thought I saw it this afternoon.
I know Erica got it.
Steph, it'll be up
tomorrow.
Erica?
Yeah, well,
Phil got it, Mike got
And
it.
Mike got it. I saw it.
I'll forward it. It sounds from what the room is saying, I got it this afternoon.
Like 4:30 this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just looking through to find the motion. What?
I have to apologize that I have to leave. I have a work meeting I have to go to. Would you guys be able to see Lisa?
I think we'll take a motion on whether you can leave. Yes, of course, we can see.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'll come back if my meeting ends fast.
Okay,
Promises.
Route, that's 7:59.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Okay,
Move to seat Lisa for Christina.
yes, I was just gonna try to do that. I move that we seat Lisa Wolf for Christina Milos.
I thought I did
You said, do we have to move?
that. No, I said move to.
Oh, okay,
Sorry,
sorry.
it's okay.
That's what
I'll
happens when you speak out without being recognized by the chair.
The chair said we could talk amongst ourselves.
Oh. It's getting harder and harder every night. All right, we have a motion. I'll second the motion. Can we get it? Can you call a vote, please, so I can keep looking for this thing?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jeff,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes,
Mike.
Yes. Motion passes. Welcome, Lisa.
How come sometimes we have to call individually and sometimes we just do a roll call?
Good question.
Because when
Depends on how you feel.
sometimes it depends on how I feel.
Okay.
Mo-
I'm
if-
just trying to learn how it
So
goes.
if I'm feeling pretty secure that everyone's gonna say yes, I'll often just call for a vote, especially at the beginning of the meeting. But once we get going in the meeting, then we do roll call. That way, if someone abstains or whatever,
Okay,
we're required then to do roll call.
It's a rule of hybrid meeting. If you're using electronic and it's not unanimous, you have to have a roll call.
okay, I
Yeah.
understand.
So I sometimes just get us going and then I pass it off to you.
Okay, no problem.
Does anyone have the motion available? I have
Yeah, I know.
50 emails in the last 2 days here.
Keep it on the
You want
agenda.
to read?
Hang on, I just got an email from Kelsey. She must be
Yes,
listening.
Ignore it. She thought you needed something else. She also told me that, yes, the website is linked. If you go to the school building, if someone will go to the school building committee page from the town website, school documents links you to the school website. So you can go.
Yeah,
either
that's what I
direction.
was just looking at, yeah.
The document, so there, yeah, but they're linked.
Yep,
Okay, so in what Kelsey sent me, it was the call for the meeting in August. And item 2 of that was to see if the townspeople on the recommendation of Board of Finance authorize appropriate $100,000 from the reserve fund for project 04-4041 for school building committee consultants, yada, yada, yada. That's the correct motion again, right?
Yes.
Yes, it's the same. And we've been through the legal process.
gonna- If you make a motion, I'll
You'll comment?
I'll comment.
Thank you. Okay. I move that the Board of Finance recommends that the selectmen call a town meeting to see if the townspeople will authorize the appropriation of $100,000 from the reserve fund to project number 04-4041 for school building committee consultants as previously approved by the voters at the annual town meeting for 2022-2023. The funds will be utilized to hire consultants to assist the school building committee with the review of options, including but not limited to renovation, addition, or a new school, and other items to assist the school building committee in fulfilling their charge.
Some of that was like explanatory language, but it all needs to be in the call.
It was in the last one. I think the language was slightly different in what Catherine sent, but I'm not, for some reason, I can't find the email, even though I know I have it.
I didn't see it in any of the materials, but did someone second it?
Negative.
I second.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I give you an update on the
You-
process?
I think you should.
So if you recall, we were looking into whether, what the procedure was to take a request that had been defeated at town meeting, back to town meeting. I shared with the SBC last night that our attorney had weighed in. I had asked for it in writing, that as long as we went through the correct process for taking an item to town meeting, that his opinion was that we could do so. So in his written opinion, I'll sum it up to say, based on our request to research whether a motion previously raised and defeated at a town meeting may be brought forward again for consideration at town meeting. Given the town of Wellington's lack of charter, applicable ordinance, or controlling state statute, there is no rule or regulation precluding the issue of the SBC appropriation being reconsidered at town meeting, so as all other relevant preconditions and requirements for such a meeting are satisfied. So his recommendation was basically we repeat the entire same process. So last night, the board, the SBC committee voted to bring this to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance, if they so choose, ask for a town meeting to be called by the selectmen, and then that town meeting would hold a vote.
Okay, So that resolves the question of the process, to bring it up again. I did find the email from the school building committee chairman, and I think it's the same. You didn't type that whole thing, right? Okay, so this says the school building requests that the Board of Finance ask the Board of Selectmen to hold a town meeting to appropriate $100,000 from the reserve fund to project number 04.1.4041.
That's not the same.
4041. We had 04-4041.
Yeah, he didn't
Is
say
that all the
that.
same thing?
It's all the same thing.
It's all the same thing. Okay. For school building committee consultants as previously approved by the voters in town meeting, the funds will be utilized to hire consultants to assist the school building committee with the review of options, including but not limited to renovation, addition, or new school, and any other items needed to assist the school building committee in fulfilling the charge. Says basically the same thing, right, that I said? Okay. So, more discussion on the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Let's vote, please.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Jeff,
No.
Mike,
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Next, we just missed Christina on the ARPA update. Erica, do you want to give a quick?
Sure, I think she sent you quite a
I'm
lengthy
I'm
update
gonna
of particular
find it.
Yeah, of particular projects. We did reopen submissions. We did put a deadline on that. Donna, do you recall the date? It was, I want to say November 1st. It was right around the first week of November. We put a deadline on it because we already have submissions that exceed our total funding.
Mhm.
So, but we wanted to be able to give them equal consideration.
Sure.
So we did close out one project at our last meeting that put $717 back into Fund 19. And so we can add that to the amount to reconsider. And we should have one more project to close at our next meeting.
Great. I do have Christina's update here. I'll just read a couple highlights for the good of the group here. And this was emailed to all the board members. The ARPA Commission met on October 3rd and again on October 17th. At the October 3rd meeting, we were notified the remaining funds arrived in Willington. And we were able to notify all the people who were waiting on starting their purchases that had previously been approved that it was okay to move forward. We also decided to open up the application portal and make an announcement to the public. At the October 17th meeting, we accepted and heard new funding applications. ARPA 40 for miscellaneous library structure improvements in the amount of $81,250, and ARPA 41 for a stove for the senior center in the amount of $6,000. No action was taken on these items as the board decided to wait for additional submissions to come in. And we set a deadline of Thursday, November 3rd. And then we would determine when the next public hearing would be. In addition, the skid steer project officially closed and returned over $700 to Fund 17. Fund 19. Sorry, I saw you look up. Since the meeting, we got word that ARPA 7 air conditioning for HMS band room is ready to close, and the amount to return to Fund 19 is $8,450. And then there's a lengthy summary of the approved projects and the tracking sheet along with it. And I believe, let's see, and the last comment is the only updates on requests heard at public hearing is that Board of Selectmen and Lincoln Fire Department #1 is in discussions about the possibility of pulling the requests for funding bonuses and doing something else that would be inclusive of the teachers. Respectfully submitted, Christina Milos, ARPA Chair, Board of Finance Delegate to ARPA Commission. And I believe, as always, this information is available through the town permitting website. If you go into the ARPA
Yes.
section of the town permitting
Yeah.
website, so it is
It's
all available.
It's all available. Every document is available to see. You can search it just like you put any other open permit. It can take some time, so be
Yeah.
patient, but that's how you can submit and how you can view all the current submissions.
Okay. Anything on ARPA?
Do you know what the cost was? I saw that 700 was returned to Fund 19. What was the cost of the skid steer?
62,000 and some change.
Yeah,
the
The request, the
I
project
think the
was
project-
60,
I can't remember. It was over 60,000.
yeah. We'd have to look for that. I already closed the tracker off my screen here.
So Kelsey's saying to me 68 and some change.
Yeah, because I think 69 is what was requested, so that makes
Yeah, it
sense.
was-
So it's probably 68 to something.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's the same as the generator for DPW. 69 for that.
it
okay.
could be stuff. I don't have the exact numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't see it on here. On the
It
spread.
should be in the tracker from Christina that I sent to everybody on the board also, Steph. I know you have a million emails to go through.
No, I printed out the tracker. That's what I'm not seeing it on, so.
Oh, that's very detailed. All the costs are on that tracker.
Okay, anything else on the ARPA update? All right, update on annual reports. Working with the town clerk, I verified what the legal requirements were for annual reports because we're behind on them. I also verified what years we have and what years we need. I created an email to go out to the budget submitting organizations, and when I sent it to Donna to have her distribute, Donna said, "Hey, I've got some good information for this," which made me realize I should have asked Donna. And Donna gave me a bunch of information to look at, so I'm reviewing all of that, which is actually probably gonna make the process easier for the submitting agencies. So in the next few days, the request will go out to the budget submitting agencies, and we will get annual reports caught up. Right, Donna?
67 to 83.
67 to 83. Okay, so it must have been 68 was the ARPA request for that, yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Kelsey. It never stops working.
I guess not.
I'll
Thank you,
remind you.
Kelsey. Okay. Any questions on annual reports before I move on? Seeing none. We've already covered the CIP DPW dump truck. So we're on to new business. Board of Education request to place funds in the non-lapsing fund. Phil, would you like to give us a quick?
Sure. So the non-lapsing fund is the account. Can you hear me online?
Thank you.
Yeah, she's nodding yes.
Okay. So the non-lapsing fund is the Board of Ed's account that they can use for kind of emergency things, could be maintenance, could be anything education that there is kind of more unanticipated. The current balance is 153,249. And the maximum balance that you can have in that account is $272,240. The board approved a request to the Board of Finance to transfer $105,000 of the $179,638 that's being returned by the board from the 21-22 budget. They're requesting 105, and that would bring the balance to 258,249. It just leaves a little bit of a window that Donna and I think we were comfortable not going right, asking right to the cap. The money that's being returned, and I think it's important to understand, why is the board returning $179,000? Because that's a lot of money. We'd like to be typically within 1% of our budget. We had open positions last year that we couldn't fill, shortage positions that when you have an open teacher salary and benefits, you're talking easily about $100,000 potential. So there was periods of time for certain very specific positions throughout the year that they were just open. We couldn't fill them, and so that creates some extra money in there. We had hired some new staff at a lower salary, which is always nice. We had savings from hiring paraprofessionals into the union versus contracting through an outside agency. There was savings from that. We had cyber insurance, which we thought we were going to be eligible for last year, and turns out we were not. And so that money was not expended. And the last thing was just insurance savings from staff, some people that didn't take insurance. So The request is 105. The reason the money is down now, the board applied $50,000 in this current budget for outplacement tuition. And then we also had an increase in enrollment over the summer in kindergarten and had only budgeted for 2 positions and needed 3. So they're using, they didn't come back to the Board of Finance, didn't, take a big whack at the current budget. They just use non-lapsing funds to pay for the kindergarten teacher, which is exactly why that fund is there. You hire a teacher with salary and benefits, and you're talking about $80,000 to $100,000 potential. That's a big hit. That's 1% of our budget. So that's kind of the why the request to be of 105.
Anyone have questions for Phil? Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna scroll down to the motion here.
Can I make that motion?
Are you ready?
Yeah,
Oh,
I move to request 105,000 of the $179,638 returned by the Board of Education be placed in their non-lapsing fund per Board of Education policy number 3171 and Connecticut General Statute 10-248A.
second. Discussion on the motion. All right, let's vote.
Jeff,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes,
Joe,
yes,
Lisa,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes. Motion passes. You're welcome. Thank you, Phil. All right, item 2 of new business, sewage disposal system. Sewage disposal system and renovations to the old town hall, including steep grant funding. And a potential motion to fund the project via town meeting. Erica, would you like to start the conversation on this?
So after 2 years, we have finally signed a contract with DPH for the project for we got a steep grant for. This was during COVID, so these were smaller awards. It was for $128,205. And it was for construction of a new sewage disposal system, so a septic tank and some renovations at the old town hall. The renovations being painting. At this point, I'm hoping that the whole 128 will cover the project. When we put these numbers together with Carl, COVID, we were in COVID times, but nothing was quite as drastic as it is now. So I still hope there is money left for painting. I hope to complete this project. So in order to allocate the funds, as we spend them, you have to authorize giving us permission, and it needs to go to a town meeting so that we can appropriate the funds, and then we're reimbursed by that steep grant. Just so you know where we're at with the project, we did perk test out in the green today, successful perk test. So Carl will be, the survey will be next, and then he'll complete the drawings and complete an RFP that we'll put out for doing the work.
Seems sacrilege to dig into the green.
It sure does.
Just the idea of digging into the ground out there. Yep. Okay, for the sake of discussion, I'll make the motion. I move that the Board of Finance recommend that the Board of Selectmen call a town meeting to appropriate $128,205 from the steep grant, contract number 2022-0109 for the construction of a new sewage disposal system and renovations to the old town hall building. Can I get a second?
second,
Okay, discussion. This is not coming directly from taxpayer funding, right? Because it's a steep grant.
That is correct. So, yes,
And we have been talking about this for quite a while now.
yes. It got kicked around from OPM when they gave us permission to DEEP, and DEEP finally decided this was too small a project for DEEP, pushed it off to DPH. By the time they get all their ducks in a row and 500 versions of the contract, finally ready to sign. We are ready. So we began moving forward when Donna was looking for this document, which we hadn't done. In past steep grants, it had been done, others it hadn't. So we said, let's get it done and so that we can appropriate the dollars from the grant.
When did that first surface on CIP? Does anyone know? It seems like years ago.
Yeah,
I can-
2019.
I can say at least by 5 years, so at least since 2017, I know it came up. I don't know if it had been there prior to 2017 and since Christina left. I just
Yeah, I
don't
remember when we were talking about the work inside the building, there was discussion of the
Discussion about it,
septic
yes.
back then too.
It was in the larger plan, so when that work was done, it was at the top of the recommendations from that project that it should be done, and that's where the project, that's where it came from, it was identified in that study.
Right.
But I just can't recall if it was the 2018, 2019 fiscal year, or if Christina had submitted it prior.
Okay, any other discussion? Let's vote.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Jim?
Doesn't look like he's there.
Hello?
Oh,
Jim?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Oh,
all right, so we'll take Joe's vote.
okay.
I thought you said Jim. Yeah. Eyes were on me.
We've lost
Thank you.
Jim somewhere.
Jeff?
Got 50-50 here, no.
No? Okay, Mike?
Yes.
And for Jim, I'll just do unavailable via Skype or Zoom meeting.
Yeah, just note on that motion that Jim was unresponsive on Zoom. Hopefully he's not unresponsive at home.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, I mean, I really hope.
This is what in-person meetings.
That happened to him before where he lost internet for like 5 minutes.
Okay, we are done with regular business, but let me just get my agenda back up. Okay, back to present to speak. Anybody in the room? Erica?
Yes, I'll be quick as I make the meeting rounds and encourage you to get back to in-person meetings with the hybrid option. I feel like the majority of your boards, our boards and commissions should be in person. The hybrid should be used in rare instances for people to participate and for the public, but I think we're all out and about doing regular activities, and I'd like to see you get back. So it's nice to see the two of you here, but it certainly is a lot easier if the rest of your board is together. It certainly makes the work.
Well, Pete Tanaka would be in the room too, but he's somewhere in Wisconsin, I think, at the moment.
Right, but so that option, right, the option for a board member was always there prior to these new regulations. I just think it's important for us to get back to our working person. So my push to get your members here in the room.
Thank you.
We actually agree on something.
We do agree.
All right, other people in the room present to speak.
Nick Tella, 49 Merck, touching base off of that. Again, hybrid option, I agree with. Tonight downstairs, it was only in person. So I just hope this board never goes to that situation, because what now happens is people at home cannot participate. Yes, they can watch on YouTube, but say if they wanted to participate, the hybrid option should be the option. Now, perception, just touch base on this because I heard this, perception that grant money isn't taxpayer money. I heard this tonight just now, and then the night we were voting from the gentleman in the crowd. If this is not taxpayer money, where is this money coming from? Because it's coming from either property tax, income tax, sales tax, some kind of tax that we're either paying locally or to the state. So the perception is not taxpayer money. It is taxpayer money. It's not free. So personally, I'm not on board for the $100,000. Just seeing the cost from the options that were presented last night between the new and renovation options that were there. I think the school should be doing the building upgrades each. That approach seems to be many millions less than what costs that were presented. We're looking at potentially with waivers, at best $32 million, considering the cost of potentially with center being upgraded to a town hall. Even if it's not upgraded to a town hall, 28 million at best for a new, and that's with no auditorium. Renovations for hall with no auditorium are around 36 million, without taking consideration of center school. Construction costs 2020, 21 to 22 were approximately, from what I've seen, about 15%. On the building upgrades, so January 2021, on the presentation, it was shown that the option one upgrades was approximately $13.9 million for both schools. We'll say 14 million. With that 15% increase, you're looking at $16 million to upgrade both of those schools. To me, it's more responsible to the taxpayer, spending 16 million, potentially. I'm sure the number may be higher, but it's not going to be close to the bottom number of 28 million with no auditorium for the new school. I personally would like to see if we can get the invoice number of 7295, which was the property valuation. Do we see that invoice somehow? I don't know if that could be made to the public. Going to the truck, maybe contracting snow plowing out for the winter season instead of abusing our vehicles. I don't know what the cost is. I don't know if that's been analyzed at all, but at least take a look at it. This 2023, 24 vehicle, those features should be the same as 2012. I don't know if it is or isn't. And last point here, I understand that the truck isn't needed, but as the town has a lot of expenses coming up on our plate here. We're already in a recession. I know some people may say we're not. We're in a recession. We don't know where this is going. I think we should just slow up on our spending. I mean, we could be heading into some issues here with our people needing a break from taxes. I don't know, who knows down the line, the town needing to get innovative in ways of helping people out. Putting ourselves in a position where we're just spending and not being able to help people later on, I think is concerning. I think we've got some issues coming up. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room?
Mike, I'd like to say something.
Hang on just a second, Lisa. Anybody else from the public online? Okay, Lisa, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment that I thank you very much for your involvement in the bidding process. I do think it is your place, and it should be commended that a volunteer wished to get engaged, be educated, learn from the process, and see what he can do to help the town be more fiscally prudent. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you.
Thank you. Anything else in present to speak? All right, what is left? Good and welfare. Do we have anything town-wise, good and welfare that we need to address?
Unless you want to share with people on your meeting that there's a Halloween party on Halloween from 4 to 6.
Where?
River Road. By Parks and Rec and.
Parks and Rec Halloween party, River Road on Halloween.
On
and
Halloween, 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
I believe there'll be a pumpkin drop.
Oh, there might be a pumpkin drop.
I don't know what to say.
Will there or won't there be?
There might be.
All right, and in the next couple of weeks, everyone keep an eye out for the information coming out of the school building committee. This obviously is a very important topic for the townspeople. So keep an eye out for more public outreach.
And after 3 items, look for a town meeting.
And look for a town meeting coming up, yes. All right, can someone make the motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I second that. All of those who approve the motion to adjourn, say aye and wave goodbye.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, those are.
Aye.
all that, most-
Stephanie, take out your air conditioner.
No.
My work order in, but it's not like Public Works. They're not right on it,
Good night.
Yeah.
Can you close the meeting out?
Sorry.
End, the red end button, and for all.